All right. Hello, Bruno Santamaria. Before we chat about your documentary, Things We Dare Not Do, may you please tell me how Mexico is dealing with the COVID-19 situation?
Well, we are now, I think, as the whole planet in our houses. We are trying not to go out. Of course, there are a lot of people who has to work. Most of the workers, of course, I don't know how to explain it, but they work for the whole country, and they are taking some. My English is not very good, so I will
Don't worry about
try
it.
to be clear. But yeah, we are in the phase 3, I think so. Is the most risk moment for everybody. So we have to be, without going out if you don't need to go out. And for example, that.
Okay, so you're self-quarantining like everyone else.
Yeah.
Great. So tell my audience about the plot scene in your documentary, Things We Dare Not Do.
Well, Things We Dare Not Do is a movie that we shoot in a little town in the north of Mexico, in a mangrove zone with a lot of kids. When I arrived to this little town, it was like like a fantasy because there was no adults in the town. And at the beginning, for me, it was so amazing. Also because one kid told me that every Christmas, Santa Claus flies over the island throwing candies to kids. So I was like, really? Is this true? Really, it's completely true. So I make a plan to stay there until Christmas. I start to give lessons to children. And as they said, on Christmas, suddenly Santa Claus appeared in the sky throwing candies to kids. And in that moment, I get completely in love with this little town. So I started to live there, and I start to realize why people is not adult people is not living there, and is because they are working all the time. So in this little island, only live a grandmother, grandfather, and child. And in the middle of these childs, there was one that was a little bit more bigger than the other ones. His name is Ñoño, and I start to talk with him a lot because we were a little bit more bigger than the childs. That the childs are between 5 and 10 years old, more or less. And I understood that he was playing with kids, even though he has 15, because he feels secure with them. And why does it mean secure? Is because he was hiding something in his life to the world, to his family, and also to himself. He dressed as a woman when nobody see him or see her, I understood. And the movie, it's a portrait in this space, a magical space in some way, when one of these kids has to grow up, uh, and the way he do that is telling his parent, ask his parents permission to dress as a woman and be what he wants to be in his life.
Okay. What has your relationship been like with the trans community over your lifetime?
Before this, I was not really connected to this.
Mm-hmm.
It was something strange because while I was doing this movie, I was also having a secret in my life to my parents. I am gay, I have a boyfriend, but nobody knew it before this movie in some way. So when I meet Ñoño, we start to talk a lot of what does it mean to keep a secret and why we are keeping these secrets. For me, it was something about being gay, and for Ñoño was something about being a woman. So in that sense, I have some friends before this movie that they are transgender, but I was not so deeply related to this theme. It was from this moment that I understood Ñoño was in this situation that I start to make research and get deep to meet people and to read things and to understood what is happening in Mexico, also in the world about this theme. Because, for example, I was keeping a secret to my parents, but for me it's a naive secret because more or less now it's a little bit easy to be gay, but being transgender, for example, Mexico is one of the most, I don't know how to explain it, but the numbers of murders and transphobic in Mexico is too big. So I think now is a very terrible situation for people who is like this. So in some way, I understood that the problem that Ñoño was living in a very little town, in a very personal and intimate way, was important to make reflection about how those people live with this kind of way of life. I don't know if I explain myself.
So what is your message to your fellow Mexicans who are perhaps hostile towards transsexuality?
No, I think that it's completely unfair. It's completely absurd that when I or you want to be gay or transsexual, it's terrible, because when you realize that you want to do something in your life, you have to fight first with you. You have to understand that anything is wrong with that decision, and then you have to fight with your friends, and then you have to fight with your family, and then you have to fight with society, and then also with law, and there are a lot of unfair and absurd problems in the world, I think, in Mexico but over the world, that ask you, and I don't know which is the word, but make repression to you in the way you choose to live your own life. So Ñoño is a very brave guy. Her name now is Dayanara, and she's having a hormonal treatment to become a woman. And for me, so brave is the word, I think, to see her in a very intimate way, how he fight in all this process, first with her, then with family, then with society. And for me, it's like an example that when you cross the line of this repression that society makes on you, in some way you can live and start to grow up and start to being the person you want to be. Now Ñoño is not just playing with kids, now he's giving lessons. So in some way I think he grow up when he do what he wanted to do, and for me that's more or less the message that I want to transmit with the movie.
How long did it take to shoot this movie?
It was 5 years, the whole process. We were shooting 3 years. It was like 8 trips. Every trip was like 1 month, and this was for 3 years. But then we do the montage in 2 years more or less. So the whole process, from the moment he heard from a child saying me there is a Santa Claus flying over this island, until we say this is the final cut, we have the movie, was 5 years.
Wow. How is this project different than others you've worked on?
I think this project, I am the director and the cameraman. My first YouTube documentary was the same. But for me, this is a very personal project in the sense that, of course, it's the story of Ñoño and this community that I didn't know this community before doing the movie. It was like a surprise for my life. I don't know which is the word, but I realized this place exists. Well, I will say it again because I get confused. But what I want to say is that this project was made completely with friends. And for me, it was so important to do that because when you try to film someone, you touch that people, you change things also. I know that Ñoño was thinking on do this action of ask permission to her fathers to dress as a woman, but I know that the camera also can accelerate maybe the process. So I touch him, touch her, but in the same way she touched me because I was living a similar process. And that kind of encounters between people who is filmed and who film, I think when is being around, I don't know how to explain it, but if you are with the people who knows you, who loves you, everything is a little bit more easy. In some way, you work not just with talent people, you work also with people who loves you. And in that sense, I feel the movie gets that from the context of the way we are doing the movie. So I think that is one of the most different things of work that we did this movie with friends.
How did you get into filmmaking?
Because, well, I study cinema in Centro de Capacitación Cinematográfica, CCC. It's a big school in Mexico, public school. But I think I started to study there because when I was kid, well, my father is painter and my mom do exercise. She give lessons of exercise. But when I was kid, there was an old woman who lived in front of my house. Her name is Margarita, and she's a homeless woman. And she used to enter to the building where I used to live. And it was so strange to see her because she painted her face in a very strange way. She carried all the time dolls, strange, also makeup, with makeup strange. So I was a little bit afraid of her. But in some moment, my father saw a movie where she was acting when she was young. And my father told this to me, and it was like, wow, this old woman that lives on the streets, was an actress. So since I was like 10 years old, I tried to know her and to ask her things. And it was hard and difficult, but 20 years more or less passed and happened. And we started to do a movie together, and the movie is called Margarita. It was my first feature documentary. So I think I met this woman and I have some emotion and feelings about her because she paints a lot. She has in her memory a lot of poems and music, and it was so yes, amazing for me to listen to her. But then when I in some way we start to be friends, and when I grow up, she asked me to enter to my house. So it was completely strange because she get used to enter to my house and we have conversations. So I decided to start filming that process of become friends between between us. And we did a movie about that. And I think I started to do cinema because I met Margarita. I met this old woman who lives in the streets.
What would you like to see happen to the Mexican film industry?
Sorry, I didn't understand.
What kind of improvements could you suggest to the Mexican film industry?
Well, now it's completely hard, everything, because of not because of COVID, but I think the government is taking like a pretext all the changes in the world and in the economy to cut the I don't know how to explain, but the money, the grants,
the budget, yeah.
Budget that they have to cinema. So now is a very difficult and risk time for cinema because there is a little industry in Mexico, but most of the movies that make money are very commercial movie and from famous director, famous actor, and the young people who is making cinema, who is trying to tell something in a different way, who is trying to make art with cinema, they don't or we don't earn too much money. So we need support from the state to make culture. So I think now is a very difficult moment, and there are some people that they are trying to be organized to ask the government to don't cut the budget. But exactly today I read some paper that they has cut 50% of the budget, and that's it's like I don't know which is the word, but like a massacre. I don't know. Massacre is like to kill the culture. So I think it's a very red in some way red alert moment.
Oh, geez. That's too bad. I hope things turn around in your favor. I was curious to know if there was a documentary that you saw that made you see a subject or understand a subject matter differently afterwards.
Yeah, I think. Well, for example, I saw a documentary, a very famous documentary in Mexico, like 1 year ago, called I don't remember the name. It's about ambulances, and I can search for the name. Midnight Family is the name.
Okay.
And Lead My Family. It's a documentary, a very intelligent, smart, sensitive documentary that show how in Mexico City, there are like, I don't know, 40 ambulances that has the permission to be an ambulance, but there are a lot of people, so the ambulances are not enough to cover the whole city. So because of that, there are also another ambulances that has not the permission. So they are like pirate. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So because of that, these ambulances has to fight between them to like fishers to fish an accident in the middle of the city. So they it's like a how you say race between them trying to arrive first to take this problem in the city that for example a crash between cars.
Mm.
And when they arrive, they take this person that has some ill in because of the accident, and they have to take them to a hospital, and they make some how can I explain accords with hospitals to receive some money because they take them to this hospital and not to the other hospital. So it's a very complex situation because you see how this family who is driving an ambulance who has not the permission is fighting to survive, and they have to pay for the ambulance, they have to pay for gasoline, they have to pay for food, for eat. Of course, they are trying to, how do you say, salvar, to save lives, but
Mm-hmm.
also they are making some strange accords, no, how do you say? Oh,
Decisions.
yeah, they are taking decisions that can be ethically questioned
Mm-hmm.
and
Questionable, sure.
questionable. Yeah. So for me, it was a very way of showing how reality is so complex. You can question the ethical of one person, but if you understand what is behind of himself, you understand that is not just the decision of this person, is the system that is not working, and because of that, you have to find the way to survive the life in the city. I don't know if I was so clear, but I think
I think I get the idea. Okay, so Bruno, thank you for your time. What do you have planned for the rest of the year?
Well, now I am. I also work as cameraman, so I am pre-producing now, having a lot of meetings with people because we are going to make a documentary series about people who cross the border from South America to North America, crossing by Mexico. And also, we are preparing a movie in Guadalajara and state in the center of Mexico. Yeah, we are working by Zoom, having a lot of
Mm-hmm.
meetings to maybe at the end of the year film it. No?
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Michael.